During the Age of Exploration, from the 1400s to the 1600s, European explorers began to colonize North America, redrawing the world map. In this video, we'll learn where those explorers came from, what factors motivated them, and how the story of the Spanish conquistador, Hernán Cortés, illustrated the European thirst for gold, God, and glory. Today, many people believe that Christopher Columbus was the first European ever to set foot in the Americas. But that's a misconception. It's likely that almost 500 years earlier, the Viking Leif Erikson set sail from Greenland, unaware that he was about to make history. Evidence suggests that after arriving in present-day Newfoundland around 1000 AD, Erikson established Vinland, the first European settlement in North America. Although this settlement was short-lived, due most likely to indigenous resistance and the vast distance to their homeland, today the Vikings are credited with making the first European inroads into the continent. In the early 1400s, Portuguese Prince Henry, known as Henry the Navigator, played a significant role in advancing European exploration. Prince Henry supported numerous expeditions around the northwest coast of Africa to establish direct access to West African gold, ivory, spices, and enslaved people. But the first European expedition to reach the Americas was Spanish. The next documented contact between indigenous peoples and Europeans was not until 1492, when Christopher Columbus, the Italian explorer sailing for Spain, crossed the Atlantic in search of a western route to Asia. Mistaking the Caribbean island of Guanahani for an island in Asia, he claimed it for Spain and renamed it San Salvador. Europeans continued to explore, including Portuguese explorers João Fernandes Lavrador and Perot de Barcelos, who navigated the northeast coast of North America. And Italian Amerigo Vespucci, who was sponsored by Spain and Portugal, investigated new routes to Asia. He identified the Americas as a new continent, not known to Europeans, setting the stage for their colonization and exploitation. Other European countries like England, France, and the Netherlands would follow. By the 1620s, each nation had laid claim to their own territories across the continent. But what drove them to do so? Although each nation had its own reasons for wanting to colonize North America, ultimately they were motivated by a combination of three major factors: gold, God, and glory. Just as Columbus was willing to sail into the unknown to reap the financial rewards of finding a western route to Asia, so too were the kings and queens of Europe willing to finance exploration for their own gain. The English privateer Sir Francis Drake, for example, claimed land on the west coast of North America for Queen Elizabeth I, giving her the respect and glory she was seeking. French explorer Jacques Cartier explored the St. Lawrence River and laid the basis for France's claim to what is now Canada. And Henry Hudson was one of the first Europeans to explore the areas around modern-day New York on a Dutch East India Company expedition which contributed to the foundation of the New Netherlands. The age of exploration was fueled by a fierce sense of competition as Europe's powerful elites vied for dominance. Not to be outdone by their rivals, they each wanted to discover new lands, enlarge their territories, expand their empires, and gain the glory that came with being masters of this so-called New World. The power and prestige which accompanied global exploration and colonialism was sought after, and it enriched and strengthened the monarchies which had invested in it. In the decades leading up to the Age of Exploration, the Ottoman Empire controlled the western part of the Silk Road, and therefore controlled trade between Europe and Asia. This meant Europe had to find new routes to trade with Asia in order to access the continent's spices, silk, and precious metals. This was one of the reasons why Spain had bankrolled Columbus's speculative voyage. Explorers also sought riches in the Americas, looking for natural resources like timber, furs, fish, and land, as well as precious metals like gold. The promise of wealth ignited the fervor for colonization. Religion also played a major role in European expansion. Europe's rulers felt it was their duty to spread their versions of Christianity, believing their religion to be culturally superior and more advanced than the beliefs of others. As such, they made significant efforts to convert non-Christian populations. Some missionaries spread Christianity while working in schools and teaching indigenous people new farming methods. However, the process of conversion could also be conducted in a brutal or violent manner. While the ideas of gold, God, and glory offer a framework for considering the motivations of European explorers, it is important to also recognize how these factors were interconnected. The Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés is a good example. Born in the Spanish town of Medellín in 1485, as the son of minor Spanish nobles, Cortés was eager to see the world and make a name for himself. In 1504, Cortés left Spain to set sail across the Atlantic, eventually landing in a part of Hispaniola which today we call the Dominican Republic. He later joined an expedition to conquer Cuba, led by the notable Spanish explorer Diego Velázquez, where he rose to become mayor of the town of Santiago. When Velázquez canceled Cortés's commission for an expedition into present-day Mexico, Cortés defiantly set out anyway, against Velázquez's orders. Arriving in Tabasco in 1519 with roughly 500 heavily armed men, Cortés made plans to advance on the mighty Aztec Empire. In some cases, he forged alliances with disgruntled indigenous communities, while in others, like in the case of the city of Cholula, he slaughtered thousands. His first attempt to take the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, a huge city of roughly 400,000 people, ultimately ended in failure after he was forced to leave and deal with Spanish forces sent to apprehend him. But Cortés returned in 1521, laying siege to the city for over 3 months. The taking of Tenochtitlan culminated in the fall of the Aztec Empire. Cortés was able to claim vast new tracts of land for Spain and plunder the empire for its deposits of gold. In the years that followed, the Aztec population was further devastated by disease and enslavement, and the civilization struggled to survive in the aftermath of conquest. Under the Spanish Empire, Catholic missions were established across all its colonies. Spain grew rich from the spoils of the conquest, and both Cortés and the Spanish crown gained the glory and gold they craved. This exploration of what we now call the Americas helped redraw the map of the world, enriching European nations while inflicting a devastating toll on indigenous peoples across the continents.